Hey everybody, got another video here for you. So the new bridge block is out of the paint shop and ready to go. I gave it 4 coats of lacquer and it hasn't been polished or sanded or anything else. And but when I did it, you might have seen that when I was spraying it, it was starting to slide on the paper from the spray paint. And so on the second and subsequent coats, I took some painter's tape and made a little loop so it's sticky on the outside, stuck it on the cardboard, and then stuck this on it to keep it from falling off. And the problem with that is that the lacquer and the adhesive mix together and leave a residue on the bottom that's nigh impossible to remove, actually. I tried lighter fluid, I tried lacquer thinner, I tried rubbing it off. It's like a really, really strong bumper sticker adhesive is what it turns into. And you try rubbing it off on paper, and in the end I'd sand it on the belt sander some, and then I'd do some lacquer thinner and rub it on paper and sand it some more and back and forth. Eventually I got it off, but it was a real pain. So don't do that. Don't stick your parts on tape and then try to lacquer them, because it makes a hell of a mess. So yeah, there it is. It's all nice and clean and dry. This is not lacquered on the bottom, except for, what happened to get impregnated in the wood and would actually dry instead of just being sticky forever. And I measured it originally. This should have been about 20 millimeters tall, and the bridge block needs to be 22, so the plan was like this and a 2 millimeter shim. And before I put this in the paint shop, I test fitted it on the guitar. I put it in position at the bridge, put the bridge on top, put a straight edge across the saddles and ran it down towards the nut. And the action at the 24th was looking pretty good. So this should be about the right height. It actually measures in at like 21.3 millimeters or something like that after getting sanded and everything. So next step is to slap it on and see exactly what's up. Okay, I've got the bridge block and the bridge in place, and I used the masking tape and super glue trick in order to put a couple blocks on either side of the meter stick here so it'll stand up by itself. And I've got it running from it's laying on the number 1 fret basically, and laying on the number 4 saddle over here. It's just an estimate because it's not in the slot, and the roller is actually wider than the groove in the roller for the saddle, so it's sitting a little low on that end and a little high on this end by a 20th of a millimeter or 10th of a millimeter, that kind of thing. But this way, that leaves my hands free so that I can check and see what the action is. And it's coming up that the action is I checked it, in the middle and on the number 1 and number 6 string. It's around 2 millimeters. So it's pretty darn close. It looks like perhaps this might need a little bit of sanding on the bottom with the belt sander to lower it. Or if it needs raising, I can always, cut a strip of brass and glue it on the bottom and put it there. It's going to be a floating unit. I'll glue this on, and there was no convenient way to attach a ground wire to this thing that I could find. It's got a little lock grub screw here to lock it to the posts. So I guess so it doesn't fall off the post once you've adjusted the height on the post. But that's not really appropriate for attaching a bridge ground wire. So since I have yet to find conductive CA glue, which would be very cool for, like, connecting things electrically that you need to glue together. You can, like, just glue a wire on with conductive CA glue. But since I have yet to find that, the plan is to instead run a ground from, like, the number 1 tuner key underneath the washer and bring it up like this and around like that. And of course it'll get, I haven't decided yet, but I've been debating about whether I want to use the small copper sheathing, or the other option is that the tubing that I use for the ferrules is big enough that I could get a bridge ground wire through it, and then I could make a little piece of tubing that went up and around like this and was held in with the brass pins bent over, and run the ground wire through that piece of tubing and give it a little kind of a steampunk kind of a thing going on. That might be cool too. Plus it makes more copper, so I don't know. I'll have to decide when the time comes, but yeah, this is just going to be I'm basically just going to glue this thing onto the block, and then it's time for some strings. You can see I've already got it taped off here in order to paint up the cavities with shielding paint. And the sheathing being all copper, even though I'm not going to bother to, like, connect it to grounds in here or at either end, just even being ungrounded shielding, it's going to help the situation. Probably enough. I don't think there's going to be any EM interference issues with this build, so I really don't anticipate any whatsoever. Because, well, like the pickup wires, for example, are they're already shielded, and they're just going to be inside more copper shielding. So, yeah, I'm so worried about that. And like these guys are not shielded, but even with an unshielded, what you can do is you simply twist them around each other, and it makes it so that the ground becomes sort of a shield for the positive wire as they're, running along their length wherever they're going to. So I can use that trick inside the copper, and I don't think that's going to be an issue. You also have to realize that a 60 cycle EM wave, is a really long wavelength. So yeah, so unless you've got, a gap the size of a guitar in your shielding, it's hard for the EM to get through. The small gaps, like, let's say, for example, you've got shielding running all the way up to the end of a switch, but you have no shielding on the, like, last inch or so of the wires that you cut back and stripped and stuff so that you could wire it up. That in general, as long as that's inside a cavity or something, that's not going to be an issue. And of course, if you've got pots and such, you should always ground them. So just carry your grounds throughout everything and you should be good. But enough rambling about shielding. I guess what I'm going to do is get some of this tape out of the way and try to put some strings on it. I gotta glue this thing on first. Okay, looks like it's about 2 mil action at the 24th. Shooting for 1.5, so gonna take it down a half mil and a lot of similar triangles. This is 1, this is 3/4. So a half mil is 3/4 of what? Time to find a calculator. Well, according to the math, in order to knock a half mil off here, I need to take 2/3 of a mil off here. Happiness is a floating bridge. How's that for easy? 2/3 of a mil, huh? $1.5 millimeters. Yeah, we're in the house. Just a hair under 1.5. Yeah, so perfect. At least for that string. Get the rest of the strings on. No saddle height adjustment, so all I can do is put on number 1, see where it's at, either grind or shim as needed, if needed, and call it a day. Okay, I'm at about 1.5 on both sides here, it looks like. Or on maybe a little under, a little over actually. And yeah, just right about at 1.5. I guess I could probably take it down another 1/10 of a mil on the bridge or something. But we'll call it close enough for the moment, I think. Okay, these are the new spacers for the bridge pickup, and the idea is to take off these 4 millimeters that are used to clear the wire, and then replace them with these. These are a total of 10 millimeters, which will put the bridge at the correct height. Should be, according to the math. Actually, I measured that, and yeah, I came up with 10. So fabbed up some 10s. So I'm about to glue them in, but before that, I sprayed them with lacquer. And as I said in the past, I've had issues with the blue tape and doing this kind of a thing and putting it down on the paper and then putting this on the tape in order to hold this still when I'm spraying, so that I don't spray and it blows it off the paper. But the lacquer solvents and the adhesive on the tape makes for a real mess for cleanup. So I found a new solution. I even tried putting a drop of CA glue and gluing the part onto the paper, but that didn't work out so great. But what did work was you just spray some lacquer on the paper, like a little puddle or pool, and then you just set the part in it, and the wet lacquer will hold it in place. It has enough of a strong enough bond that it won't blow around when you squirt the part with the clear coat. So yeah, and then once it dries, it's a little tricky to peel it off, but it comes away clean pretty much. So yeah, that's the method I use in order to spray these, and they got 3 or 4 coats of lacquer on them, and yeah, you can see they got some shine and stuff to them, and they've got some grain and stuff to them. So yeah, I'm about to put these on now, but I wanted to show you that new trick I just discovered. Okay, time for some nitpicky detail stuff. When I was installing the jack plate, test installing it, I noticed that it's copper, but the screws look like they were bronze actually. And I've got some, actually, I think they're antique bronze screws that look almost more copper. So I was thinking of swapping those. And then up at the truss rod cover, it had a kind of oversized flathead screw that I used there, a number 4. And I've got, once again, the smaller ones, they're number 3s that I'm going to use or try out over here on the jack. I'm going to replace this one up here as well because it's more like the correct size screw. And this is an example of hardware detail work, and God is in the details. This is the strap lock for guitar 15, and I had been having difficulty finding matching black and gold strap locks that I could swap, interchange parts with in order to get this kind of a two-tone effect going on. But I finally came across all matching parts in the 2 colors and was able to get this going. I didn't bother filming it because it was just replacing a set of strap locks, so I didn't feel a strong need to document that. But yeah, God's in the details, and little things like that really do help complete and round out a build. And by the same token, I'm going to see if I can take care of details like that. Okay, jack plate. The jack plate came with 2 screws, but no jack. And one is copper and one is bronze. That's a bronze screw, that's a copper screw. And this is what the antique copper screws look like. Let's put another one in here. And that's what the antique copper looks like. It's awfully dark. I tried sanding it back, but the antique is a coating over the copper, which is a very thin plating, and the screws are actually steel. So yeah, so sanding them back in order to brighten them up doesn't really work, because the first thing you do is cut through the edge and you see silver from the steel. So I think I'm going to jump online and see if I can find a little pack of something like that, the copper color. Basically a 1/2 inch number 4. So same size as this and not antique. I don't know if I'll even be able to find it though, so I couldn't find a copper jack. That's just a black nickel. Black nickel they call it. So yeah, so much for that for now. And up here at the headstock These are more the correct size, but they are bronze, not copper. So they look yellow, not red. So I guess I'll just leave that in and hope that I can find the next size down in this color. And use it on this and on the jack plate. But I don't think I'm going to be able to find them. So now it's time to go shopping for screws. So much fun. Well, I didn't find anything. I had already searched pretty thoroughly and only came up with this stuff, so I guess I'll be using the antique copper number 4s for the jack plate, and I'll just leave the same thing in the truss rod cover, the number 4 that I've already used there. So, action at the 24th and at the neck pickup and at the bridge pickup are all looking pretty good now. And it's time to glue these guys in. Perfect timing. The single pole, triple throw, on, off, on switches just arrived. And the ones that I've got in there right now are double poled units, just used as placeholders. Basically, I was worried about what size hole to drill through the panel for the switches. But all these minis seem to use a 6mm hole. But anyway, now I can take these doubles, which are useful for other things that these can't do, and I can use the proper switch, which is the single pole, triple throw, on, off, on. And these will be used for the off, double, single switches for the pickups. And then the third switch is a triple throw, double pole, on switch, which is what you need for phase. Actually, I'm not sure that's right. Phase should be a double pole, double throw, I think. I'm going to have to look that up. Well, I think that's going to do it for this video. So, until the next one, everybody, have a good one.